All right, welcome back to another edition of Matt and Mike's Wine and Ad Tech Show. We have a very special guest who I will allow to introduce herself momentarily. But joining me is my co-host, Matt. Matt is a certified sommelier. He is a wine guy, spent his last 15 years or so in and around wine, either in his glass or giving his glass to somebody else or selling bottles to somebody else. And I am Mike. I've spent the last 7.5 years in ad tech. Hopefully you trust us to talk about those two things, but our special guest is also a wine expert today. Joe, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Matt and Mike. Thanks for having me. I'm Joe Barret. I work for a company called Broadbent Selections, and we import wines from all over the world, but we really specialize in wines from South Africa, which really holds a special place in my heart. I'm a little obsessed, I would say, with South African wine, and I'm happy to be here to talk about it.
Awesome. I am thrilled to hear about it. There's always so much bang for your buck when you go down to South Africa, so hoping we get some good tips today. So let's start. We'll go around the horn with what are you drinking? And Joe, I see a glass in front of you, so why don't we start with you?
Yes, I'm drinking what I like to call my deathbed wine. This might be the last wine I drink. And this is from Beaumont Family Wines, and the bottling is Hope Marguerite.
What kind of grapes in there?
This is 100% Chenin Blanc.
Ooh, nice. Now,
Love
what are you drinking these days?
So I decided to switch it up today. I've been drinking these Contratto sodas. Contratto is this awesome bitter liqueur, low alcohol, 22%. Mix that up with a little LaCroix lime and fresh squeeze of lime. Great little afternoon spritzer. Kind of like a Aperol spritzer. It's delicious.
Nice, and not to call you out, but it is certainly not afternoon where you are. Last night I took down this great bottle, Saint Aubin, 2015. Matt probably got me on the pronunciation there. Matt and I talked about this, or Matt did early on, but Current Lynch, pretty famous wine importer, brought in this bottle. This was a wonderful French Chardonnay, very much more minerally than your American sort of over oaked. I think it spent a little time in the oak barrel, but we're talking more of like a mineral sort of lemony, really fresh, clean taste. So highly recommend if you can find it.
Great region for Chardonnay. If people out there like Chassagne Montrachet or Pouligny Montrachet, check out Saint Aubin. It's some are a little cheaper, but it's good stuff.
Yeah, I think this bottle is reasonable, especially if you're a Chardonnay drinker. You're probably paying a fairly good price for your good Chardonnays anyway. Okay, so Matt, ask Joe something interesting for us.
Yeah, I've got a question. I've been hearing a lot about South African Chenin Blanc, and I see you drinking it today. I was wondering why Chenin Blanc grows so well down there, tastes so amazing. And do you have any favorite producers that you enjoy drinking?
Oh, that's such a good question. It's important to know that Chenin Blanc comes from the Loire Valley in France. The soil there is mostly granite and shale. So we're kind of looking for similar type terroir when looking for places to plant Chenin Blanc. Although Chenin Blanc has been growing in South Africa for 300 or 400 years now, it definitely is the prevalent grape. And can't really say why. For years it was made into dessert wine or distilled into brandy, but it just really loves South Africa. So of their vineyard plantings, it's almost the acreage is almost double of any other grape varietal that they have planted. So it's really the grape that they get behind and have embraced as their own. And since it's been there for so long, the grape has mutated and changed, and there are clones that are strictly South African, and those vines do have their own very South African DNA. So as for my favorite producers, they're kind of all over. I mean, South Africa is huge and very diverse. This one I'm drinking here is from the Bot River, which is right behind Walker Bay. Walker Bay, there's 3 big bays near Cape Town, south of it. And Walker Bay is famous for the vineyards that surround it. It's a cooler climate. They get all that ocean wind that kind of like sucks up through the bay and lands on the vineyards and keeps things cool. And it's just a beautiful region. There's also a lot of clay in this part of South Africa, which is great because it retains water, whereas much of South Africa, as we all know, deals with droughts. One of my other favorite regions is called the Swartland, which is just north of Cape Town, a couple hours. And it's probably the most exciting wine region on the planet right now. They have old vineyards everywhere and passionate winemakers who want to show off what South Africa is capable of. These vines they're all old bush vines, they're dry farmed, and they're just absolutely stunning. So those 2 are probably my favorite regions. And for producers in the Bot River, I mentioned Beaumont. In the Swartland, you have Adi Boddinghorst, who's a visionary and brilliant man.
Yes, it's like the BBC. She can come in.
And then Evan Sadi, who's been in South Africa. He just, right now, is bottling his 20th vintage. He's pretty spectacular. The Molyneux are making some amazing wines down there.
Yes, love that stuff.
Yeah.
A few episodes ago, I recommended the Secateur Chenin Blanc, which is made by Adi Boddinghorst, who you mentioned before.
Yeah.
One of my favorite wines. Love that stuff.
And that wine retails for like high teens. It's insanely delicious for the money. I love it. It's embarrassing how much we drink in this house.
Is there like a characteristic that you would say sticks out from one region or another? Like are the grapes, or is the Chenin Blanc typically more acidic, less acidic, more fruits versus more sweet? Is there something that you like about those 2, that being your favorite?
Well, I don't think it's regionally specific, but Chenin Blanc, like Chardonnay, is a very malleable grape. So you really get out of it what winemaking techniques you put into it. A lot of these winemakers that I just mentioned are really hands-off. So you're just getting a real pure expression of the fruit. And this wine here from the Bot River is more of a Loire style Chenin.
Nice.
This one in particular is barrel aged, but he does a stainless steel wine as well. And this, you're going to get more of like that clean apple fruit, really great acid. You talked about minerality. Where in the Swartland, it's hotter, a little bit drier. And Adi's also a low or no interventionalist winemaker. So, but since it's hotter, you're going to get a little more tropical fruit, some, orchard fruit.
Some of that, pineapple kind of thing to it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, that was great. I mean, I think everybody's always looking for guidance when they branch out of their comfort zone. So people who don't typically drink South African wine, now you got a place to start.
Yeah, and you were talking about Chardonnay, and I think this is a really great grape for Chardonnay drinkers to try. The similarities are pretty huge. They both have rich texture, and they both have high acid. So the grapes really do go hand in hand.
Great comparison. Yeah.
Awesome. So Matt, what do you want to know about ad tech?
Yeah. Well, I live in Denver where marijuana is legal. And so I was wondering, are there any restrictions to advertising in regards to marijuana?
It's a great question. And much like every other controlled substance, so to speak, alcohol, tobacco, fireworks, that kind of stuff, there's always restrictions to advertising. And because alcohol and tobacco have been around for so long, those have not only self-policed, but those restrictions are pretty well set in stone, not to mention they're federally legal as well as being legal in each state. So part of the difficulty with advertising when it comes to cannabis is that states, it is still legal, but it is still federally illegal. So the very first thing you need to do is make sure you're advertising in a place where it is currently considered legal. Whether you're advertising cannabis-based products or hemp-based products obviously makes a difference. But for the cannabis-based products, you need to make sure you're advertising somewhere where it's legal. And then there are still a lot of publishers or a lot of websites that won't take that type of content. So being able to find quality websites outside of things like hightimes.com, which of course is specifically dedicated to cannabis and cannabis usage. So, we at Centro have a really cool integration with a company called CannaView, and we're able to really scale cannabis-based advertising programmatically across the web. There's a lot of great places to put it. So instead of landing on a site like High Times, which again has its specific audience and content you might want to target, you can also end up on really high quality sites that you might think of, like a local news or a local media site like that. And then the ad copy itself, right? We can't have pictures of kids ripping bongs. We need to make sure that the ad copy is somewhat vague, perhaps a picture of some leaves, but it needs to be very much sort of advertising against it. It's like when you watch a beer ad on TV, if you notice, no one ever drinks the beer, they just hold the beer. That's one of the things they've done to self-police. And similarly, cannabis, we need to make sure that there aren't pipes or other things.
Interesting.
Oh my God, it's like the famous BBC one where the one kid comes in and then the they're talking about. This is great. This is what it's all about.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay. So
live recording.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So wine and music or wine and movie? Matt, you want to go first?
All right. Yeah. So, I was thinking, I've been on the stay on theme here, South Africa. Last week, I mentioned one of my favorite Chardonnays, Delaire Graff. Another one of my favorite producers, Neil Ellis, makes an incredible Chardonnay called Whitehall Chardonnay. Coastal vineyards, real cool climate, truly Burgundian in style. And I thought I'd pair that with Finding Nemo.
Nice. That'd be great.
Nice and easy, laid back. You can watch it with the kids. Pour yourself a nice glass. Think about South Africa, scuba diving or something, and I think it's a proper pairing.
That's great. Joe, do you have a movie or music pairing for your wine?
Well, my little one, who's yet to wander in, she's 2, and she's obsessed with Finding Dory right now. So when my husband and I tag team here in a little bit, I'm probably going to go turn on Finding Dory and finish this.
Nice. I love it. Finish Perfect. It quickly.
Sorry, guys.
So I had a weird hard time to try to stay on theme here, but I will go with I'm going to go with some Syrah, something red, a little bit heavier, a little bit darker, just because that's typically the area I like to hang when I'm listening to music. And after doing some extensive research, I found Ladysmith Black Mambazo is a South African band. And that's some really cool beats, really great music to turn on in the background of a party or while you're eating dinner or something like that. So throw on some Ladysmith Black Mambazo, have yourself a big old glass of Syrah, and enjoy the evening. And finally, we've got a quarantine wine and food pairing. So who wants to go first? Matt, you want to go first with your
the other night, my housemates invited me down. They're grilling up some pork tenderloin. So I pulled a bottle out of the cellar. Cru Beaujolais. Producer was Daniel Bouland. It was from Cote de Brouilly. So Beaujolais is typically Gamay grape for those out there. And it was fantastic. People always say pork and Pinot. Gamay has some similarities to Pinot, and it just absolutely rocked. Fruity, juicy, dry. It was quite delicious.
Love it. Joe, what are you eating and drinking these days?
I made this Spanish dish the other night, and it was chorizo and potatoes, stewy magic. And we drank it with a wine called Planalto, which is a white blend from the Douro Valley in Portugal. And it was amazing. It just had this great acidity that cut through the fat of the chorizo and the potatoes. It was awesome.
I want that right now. That sounds great.
The recipe's incredible. Yeah.
That's awesome. I So again, on the South Africa theme, two of South Africa's greatest exports are Ernie Els and Gary Player, two wonderful golfers who are both multiple Masters champions, both won a ton of majors. And so in honor of that, in honor of the fact that the Masters was taken away from us from this pandemic, I will recommend you eat a pimento and cheese sandwich. It should be pretty easy to get in quarantine. In fact, you can look up recipes, but you basically just need jarred pimentos and some version of cheddar, and you smash it all together, and you put it on a piece of bread. And you have that with an ice cold beer in a plastic cup, green plastic cup if you can get it to stay on the Masters theme. And that's really what they sell on the grounds. And a little known fact, they have not increased their prices for concessions at the Masters. So it's extremely hard to get a ticket. It's extremely expensive to get a ticket. But once you're there, it's $1.50 for sandwiches and $1 for beer, and quite a cool thing. So appreciate it, Joe. Thanks so much for coming on. Tell your daughter thanks for the cameo. We enjoyed seeing her. That was amazing.
That's great.
Any closing thoughts or anything else you want to leave the audience with as we stay home and stay safe?
If anyone, last week I mentioned the virtual wine dinner, and we held that last night. It was an incredible turnout. So if any of you watching, listening, bought tickets and joined here in Denver, thank you. We managed to raise over $3,200 donated to charity. And it was a really great time, and we'll probably be doing some more. So keep your eye out in your local area for virtual wine dinners too. They're a lot of fun. It's awesome. A good time. Yeah. So.
Awesome. Joe, anything you want to leave as a closing thought with the audience?
No, just keep drinking and drink well.
Yeah.
Drink good Chenin.
And I did make a donation to a charity called 1 Million Degrees at the suggestion of a friend. It helps people in community college get degrees one at a time with the goal of getting 1 million. And that was in honor of the two Carloses and my buddy Jason Simpson. And I'm trying to think who the fourth person was who commented that. And my buddy Anthony Gonsalves. All of them commented charitable donation in your name to 1 Million Degrees. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Comment below and keep an eye out for more. And enjoy wine.
Cheers.